Today's book is Make It Stick: The Science of Successful Learning by Peter C. Brown, Henry L. Roediger III, and Mark A. McDaniel. Most of us spend years studying. We read textbooks, highlight sentences, and review our notes many times. Yet after a short time, much of what we study disappears. Why does this happen? According to the research in this book, the problem is not our intelligence. The problem is how we study. Many common study methods feel productive but do very little to strengthen memory. Rereading and highlighting often create familiarity, not true understanding. Real learning works differently. It happens when the brain actively tries to retrieve information, connect ideas, and apply knowledge over time. Based on decades of cognitive science research, the authors show that effective learning often feels more difficult, not easier. In fact, some of the strategies that feel challenging are exactly the ones that help knowledge last. This book reveals a surprising truth. The best way to learn is not to study longer, but to study smarter. And the first step to understanding this idea is recognizing something called the illusion of learning. 1. The illusion of learning. To understand effective learning, we must first recognize the illusion of learning. Many people believe that if studying feels easy, they must be learning well. But research shows this feeling can be misleading. For example, imagine reading the same chapter several times. Each time the text feels more familiar, and this familiarity creates confidence. However, when someone asks us to explain the idea without the book, we may realize we cannot recall it clearly. Why does this happen? Because recognition is not the same as memory. When we reread information, the brain recognizes it but does not necessarily store it deeply. Recognition creates the feeling of understanding without true recall. Highlighting text can have the same problem. It helps us notice key sentences but does not force the brain to think actively. The authors explain that real learning requires effortful thinking. When the brain works to retrieve information, memory becomes stronger. So when studying feels slightly difficult, that may actually be a positive sign. Instead of asking, "Does this feel easy?" a better question is, "Does this make my brain work?" Once we understand this illusion, we can move to a more powerful method: retrieval practice.